In one way, that really kind of like jarred me, but in another, I'm really excited about that because for the first time, I feel like I'm really embracing the freedom of homeschool. I just don't care. Hi everybody, welcome back to Project Happy Home. For those of you who are new here, I'm Tanya, a doctor, lawyer, turned homeschool mom of 3 kids ages 9, 6, and 4. So in this video, I'll be giving you guys a mid-year homeschool update. I've been meaning to do one for a while and I just never had the time. Part of the reason I haven't been doing updates recently is because this fall has not gone the way I wanted, you guys. We made a decision to enroll my son for 3rd grade in a blended homeschool Montessori type of program where he attended a regular Montessori school for 2 days a week, and it did not go well for us at all. The majority of that was due to the fact that we live in the middle of nowhere and my commute to this school was about 50 minutes. That's one way. So 2 days a week, we sort of had the day robbed of us. And even though I had the girls, we generally would try to stay down where his school was and visit museums and coffee shop school, etc., and go to a park and then pick him up in the afternoon and come back. And we were just tired and spent. And other days of the week, my youngest still goes to a Montessori preschool for 2.5 hours, 3 days a week. So like about 9 hours a week. And that also entails waking up in the morning. And it just got to the point where we were sort of living that public school life of waking up in the morning, getting people ready to school, going somewhere, not being in our home and still trying to like establish rhythm and routine. And I just didn't like it. And it made me a little bit miserable, or a lot miserable. And I was just short-tempered and I wasn't the mother I wanted to be. My kids started to grow a little bit short-tempered and they didn't have as much playtime as they normally had. And it just sort of all kind of fell apart. And finally, push came to shove, and we were intending on continuing out the year and just finishing it out. And my husband just had a discussion with me and said, you know, you seem exhausted and like you're not having fun homeschooling the way you normally do. So the answer to this seemed pretty obvious to him, and he suggested that we just, absorb the loss of tuition and withdraw him early. And that is what we have done. And I gotta tell you, this is the very first week that we will not be driving him to school, and I am already so much happier. Just so much happier, I cannot tell you. Because not only was the commute incredibly disruptive to our homeschool rhythm, it also made a lot of things just impossible to do. For example, I wanted to blend Build Your Library and Torchlight for our history literature sort of piece this year, and that has fallen apart because I couldn't maintain all the work that he had to do for his school as well as involve him in those things for us. And I'm a pretty easygoing, light kind of schoolwork type of person for kindergarten, 1st grade, which is what my middle daughter is at. And so I wasn't going to do that stuff with her if he wasn't there. I wasn't going to read those heavier chapter books, etc., if he wasn't there to enjoy them. So we have fallen way off schedule with that. And basically what my plan is now for Torchlight and Build Your Library is to just continue with exactly where we left off and just progress at our own pace. And so that definitely means that we will not be finishing levels 1 of those 2 curricula this year. And we'll probably extend that into the spring of 2020. In one way, that really kind of like jarred me, but in another, I'm really excited about that because for the first time, I feel like I'm really embracing the freedom of homeschool. I just don't care. I don't care that we won't finish by the end of the year. And I'm just going to figure out a way to plan for it that we just continue. And so we'll probably stay in the ancient world for another for 6 to 12 months longer than we originally would have. And that is okay with me. And then we will progress into the medieval world probably the following year. So it might even be as he gets closer to 5th grade. And that is entirely fine with me. In one way, it actually works out better for my daughter because she is more developmentally ready to kind of do that stuff now. She turned 6 at the very end of November. So she's one of those kids that's straddling kindergarten and 1st grade this year. She's much more kindergarten level in her language arts and much more 1st grade, in my opinion, in her math, maybe even 2nd grade. So that gets her much more ready for the heavier reads of Torchlight and Build Your Library. I still really love their books. I fully intend to make Build Your Library sort of our core history going forward as we continue homeschooling. So I have no complaints with either of those. The usage has really been up to me, the difficulty in usage. I will do a more dedicated video on both of their curricula later on the year as we get more fully into a rhythm with them. I don't like to do those curricula review videos until I have sort of figured out a rhythm for us as to how we implement their materials, so that my review for you can be more honest and not just a first look. So that is our history piece. In our math world, we have been using a combination of Math Mammoth levels 1 and 3 respectively, and Critical Thinking Company's mathematical reasoning books B and D for my children. We attempted to use Beast Academy for my eldest, but he really surprisingly did not like it. He felt really betrayed by the fact that those cartoons were about math and not about any more interesting storyline. Because if you look at the Beast Academy books, they are very beautiful, and the cartoons, the graphic novel style is very bright and like engaging, except for the fact that they really are about math, and they're not like so much like an adventure story where they're using math or something like that. And my son did not appreciate that. He was like, I just feel like this should be fun and this isn't fun. And also math is not his like favorite subject. So I decided, you know, it's okay. We will just save that. Maybe your sister will use it later. But yes, we have laid Beast Academy aside for him for this year. Math Mammoth, I really appreciate. It's much more of a traditional approach. It does allow you to do a lot of other activities that they list out at the beginning of every chapter. She provides lots of web links to computer games, etc. And she provides different games that you can play with a simple deck of cards in it, so it can be very interactive. We haven't really used it in that way. We've done some of the card games. We haven't done very many of the computer games or anything. We just sort of progress through the book. And I really like how orderly it is and how it marches through. At the first grade level for Math Mammoth, I'm a little bit concerned that's almost a little bit too slow for my daughter, for whom math comes more naturally, but it seems perfectly on par for my son, who's completely at grade level for math, but you know, it's not his like strong suit, you would say. So, and Critical Thinking Company's mathematical reasoning, we are loving just as much as ever. Both the kids really enjoy doing it. They're very varied activities. They never know what the next page is going to bring. So basically the way we do math is we either do like 4 pages of Critical Thinking Company, or we do, you know, 3 to 4 pages of Math Mammoth, depending on how extensive the page is. I am considering a Becca arithmetic for next year, specifically because it is so colorful and it has such a spiral approach, especially for my daughter, who math just comes easily. Like, it's very instinctive for her. So I feel like maybe I can push her a little bit further, because I've heard that the Becca books are just much more advanced. If you want to know more about that, I really suggest checking out another Tanya's videos. It's spelled, her channel name is Tonia, and she's another homeschool mom. She does amazing curricula videos with no nonsense, just straight up like what she thinks of it. And she recently did a video on how she finds that the Becca arithmetic books are just really like quick and they move swiftly. So that's why I'm curious about it for my daughter, who's much stronger in math. So speaking of language arts, let me talk about what we're doing for my son. We are using Hewitt Homeschooling's Lightning Literature Level 3 for grade 3, and I love it. And so does my son. It includes book readings, it includes grammar, and it includes composition. And I really love this program, you guys. I have already bought the 4th grade book for him, as well as the 1st grade book for my daughter for next year. Like I said, she straddles kindergarten, 1st grade, but she's a little bit weaker in language arts than she is in math. So I feel like this way she'll get to get used to the system without being stressed out about it, you know, so I didn't want to get her the 2nd grade level. If you want to check out my level 3 review for Hewitt Homeschooling, I will try to link that video up above, but you can always find it in my homeschool playlist as well. Super impressed. It's going really well. I like all the books that they've chosen. One of the reasons I initially decided to go with Lightning Literature is because they had a lot of overlap with Build Your Library's level 1 as far as the readers go. So I've just been really, really enjoying that. We do a lot of reading on the side for my son as well. So right now we started the Percy Jackson series, and that's the books that I read to him at night, and it is awesome, particularly if you have a child with ADHD, because Percy Jackson has ADHD and dyslexia, and they do a really good job of like bringing out the strengths of that and talking about the weaknesses as well without making it the focus of the story at all. And so I think he really relates to the character, and it's been great. My son has a really high reading level, but he's not that engaged in reading chapter books yet on his own. He'll do a lot of comic book reading, like he's read Foxtrot and Calvin and Hobbes, and you know, the vocab and the words and the sentence structure in those are fairly complicated, and he always tests high on reading comprehension and things like that, and can read aloud to me from anything he wants. In terms of his own reading, he pretty much reads those types of comic books and nonfiction. I really want to get him to the point where he wants to read chapter books on his own. He shows a great deal of interest in me reading chapter books to him or his father, like they're working through the Lord of the Rings series, and that's fine. I don't want to push him. I don't want him to feel like it's a problem. But as an avid reader myself, I feel like it's a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to see him like curl up with a book and read it on his own. He's often curled up with like a nonfiction book. Like he'll read lots of books about animals and pirates and random things. So maybe that's just who he is, and I'm just going to have to deal. But if you guys have a good suggestion on how to get like, you know, a really strong reader sort of into that reading to themselves thing, I would really appreciate it. I'm sort of trying to bridge the gap by giving him lots of graphic novels, because that way it's sort of like more words, but like still graphic novel-y, you know? So it's bridging that comic book world to chapter books. But yeah, I would be lying if I said it didn't bother me, but I don't think it should. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we are with language arts for my son. Now for my first grader, we are basically using the reading lesson and working our way through that book. Every once in a while, like every couple of weeks, I'll do another lesson from Teach Your Child to Read. We are in the late 70s, I think, with that, but it just got to be too much to do those consistently because she was starting to have pushback to that book towards the end of last year. And so I switched over to the reading lesson for this year, which she has no problem with. So every day we'll do like 1, 2, or 4 or 5 pages of the reading lesson. And then every couple weeks I'll do another lesson from Teach Your Child to Read, just to sort of show her how much further she's come. And it's really easy for her now. She could probably do less than 100, but I just want her to feel real progress. For my daughter, there's a little bit of insecurity about the fact that I think her brother knew how to read fairly well at the age of 4. And she remembers that. Like, she remembers him reading to her. She remembers him just reading books on his own. And she, I think, feels a little bit insecure about the fact that at the age of 6, she's not really able to do that yet. You know, she can read like the books to her baby sister, her 4-year-old sister. She can read all the Maisie books. She can read like simple readers, but I still think she feels like she can't. For her, I really want to make it as stress-free as possible. I want her to feel more and more secure. So if we can keep it a little bit simpler for a little bit longer, I'm happy to do that. Her abilities exceed her confidence right now, if that makes sense. So one of the things that I found helpful recently is to have the voice memo app on my phone on. And so she gets to press the red button and record herself reading something, and then we play it back, and then we congratulate her together, you know, and she gets to hear how strong of a reader she is. For my preschooler, I'm not really talking about too much of academics because I am really easygoing about that. She has started handwriting without tears, you know, the baby levels. And she does some other random preschool workbooks that we have lying around. Some are from the Dollar Tree, some are bought. I think there's a Brain Quest workbook that she's working through too. I really don't care at the preschool level. Like I said, she goes to a Montessori preschool 9 hours a week, like just in the mornings, 3 days a week. And she does a lot of arts and crafts there. She does a lot of like, you know, manipulatives about the movable alphabet, the beginnings of phonics, but I have no intention of pushing her beyond when she's ready. I had the odd experience of having a son who just sort of taught himself how to read. Like I was reading him books and then he knew how to read. There was no in-between training there. And then for my daughter, I definitely have taught her, my middle daughter, I've taught her, you know, phonics and then how to read and all of that. And I have yet to see what will happen with my youngest. I'm sort of curious since she's just just newly 4. I'm sort of waiting to see, like, I wonder which sibling she will take after in this sense, and I don't want to limit her own way of learning yet. So whatever she wants to do, we do. When she wants to pull out workbooks, we do workbooks. When she wants to paint, we paint. When she wants to build things, she builds things. Super easygoing, which is why I'm not really addressing that. So that is the language arts piece. Oh, so that was reading for my daughter. For language arts, in terms of punctuation and grammar and things like that, we have used Shell's Education's 180 Days of Language. I will do a video on that if you guys are interested, but it's a really simple workbook. It's the kindergarten level and she just works through it. It's super easy for her. She can do 4 pages in about 5 minutes, and it just builds her confidence. So she knows about exclamation points, question marks, periods. She can read a sentence and decide what it has. She can capitalize. She can fill in the missing vowels in a lot of words. Like, for example, they'll have a picture of a tent and they'll have T and T, and then you have to figure out that it's an E. Simple things like that. She has a variety of other random phonics workbooks also. We're using those. We had initially planned to use the Good and the Beautiful level 1 with her this year, but honestly, at about less than 8 or so, I realized that this was a little bit advanced for her. It was moving a little bit fast for her, and so I just wanted to pull back on that. We probably will reintegrate that towards the end of this year or in next year, because I liked the Good and the Beautiful's level 1. I should probably mention that we haven't used the Good and the Beautiful's level 3 with my son very much at all, because right after the school year started, he just had too much work from the school. So I sort of shelved that because I definitely wanted to keep the lightning literature part of it alive. We shall see. I don't know what I'll end up doing with level 3. I don't think I'll start him on it again this year, so I might just save it for my daughter and see how she responds to level 1 and whether she wants to continue in that style or not. So we've done the history piece, the math piece, and the language arts piece. In terms of science, we are working our way through Nancy Larson's level 1 with my daughter, and she's enjoying it. She likes the different booklets. She likes the manipulatives. It's been going really well. I fully expect to finish it by the end of the year. And it's just been a really good, solid sort of sciencey thing. For my son, for science, he's been doing science through his school. So they do a lot of experiments. He has things that he brings home, like animal research reports and things like that. So that's been great. In terms of geography, we use the maps, charts, and graphs books for both of them at different levels, as well as the Evan Moore daily geography books, which I think provide a really nice review. We don't do those books like the way they're intended, where you do 1 question a day. We basically just do like the whole week whenever we pick up that book. And I really, really like those books. There's so many Evan Moore books that I really like. I fully intend on using them, you know, for different pieces of scaffolding throughout our entire homeschooling career. The other piece of geography is that we've been doing it on a much more informal but fun basis through our Universal Yum subscription box, which is basically snacks from a random country every month, which we love. And we've incorporated it with tea time. So we do geography tea time. The Universal Yums box comes with this like questionnaire, like where little quiz questions about the place, and it's just super, super fun. And the quiz questions are hard. Like, my husband and I get a lot of them wrong. We like to coordinate geography tea time when we have guests, because that way everybody gets to participate and it's just a grand old time. I really recommend the Universal Yum subscription box if you want to make geography just super fun. They also participated in Geography Fair through our local homeschool co-op this year, which was really fun. My son did Russia and my daughter did the UK, so she's the only 6-year-old I know who can rattle off like what countries are in the UK, and she knows a lot about them, so that's super fun. The other thing we do is we get letters from Afar, which is a wonderful subscription also. You should definitely check them out on Instagram if you haven't seen them. I described them and showed you an example of a letter in my geography video that I did last year, so check out the homeschooling playlist for that. But it is beautiful. She makes these beautiful hand illustrated letters, and you follow this character Isabel as she travels throughout the world. The creator of Letters from Afar also has a sister who does Charm Post, I believe, which is the travels of somebody as they explore magical and mystical places around the world. For example, you know, the Loch Ness Monster and places like I don't know, like Stonehenge and things like that, and discovers like more of the magical, mystical side of things. So if you have kids who are really interested in Harry Potter or things like that, that might be a really good option to make geography more fun. We haven't read the Harry Potter series yet in our house, so once we get through that and Lord of the Rings, I thought I would subscribe to Charm Post as well. So we've run through history, language arts, math, and geography. What am I missing? Science. Yeah, my son has been doing it mainly through school. For the rest of the year, I'll probably just continue doing animal studies and keeping it pretty loose for my son. We were going to do an adventure handbook from the Thinking Tree, so I might have him finish out that as well. It's like a thin book. There's a review that I did of it last year if you want to check that out, and that'll probably round out his science for this year. My son is so interested in science that at this level I almost don't feel like it's necessary for him to have a curricula, because he reads so much science nonfiction on his own. Like this morning I sent him a little message on amethyst, and he was just having a grand old time with that. Speaking of science, if you have not subscribed to the Farmer's Almanac email, I mentioned it on my Instagram feed. It is wonderful. They send you a little poem in their daily email, how many days are left of winter, and then 2 or 3 random articles. Like today's was about February's birthstone, which is the amethyst, and it had all these facts about the amethyst. They might have interesting things about like Groundhog Day and what it's about. If you want to add in a little dab of morning time into your schedule, if you don't do morning time already, the Farmer's Almanac email pretty much has you covered for a really nice little blurb. You know, even if you just want to start talking to your kids about seasonal things during lunch or something like that, or just on off hours, it's a great little email. I truly enjoy it, and it's just wonderful. If you're interested in more of the things we do on a daily basis like that, by the way, I suggest that you follow me on Instagram at Project Happy Home, because that's where I share a lot of like the books we've been enjoying, picture books we've been seeing. This month I'm participating in At Homeschooling by the Beach February picture book challenge. So every day I'm trying to post a picture book that we really enjoy. If you want to see like our day in the life, you can find more of that on Instagram, because I can't see myself filming one anytime soon. Geography, what else have I not talked about? Like the arts, we are participating in Squilt Live this year, and I love it. It is a membership site, so you can go on, and she does live classes, about 2 or 3 a month. And she also provides you with a playlist to listen to for the entire month, which is great. And we go through those and have a grand old time. I love her live lessons. My kids get totally into it. They learn way more about music than I could teach them, and I really appreciate that. She's so kind and warm. I just can't say enough good things about Squilt. I think it's totally worth the money, and we have loved it. The kids also take piano lessons. My son loves piano lessons. My daughter not so much yet, but again, we're taking it slow, and we have a wonderful homeschool mom in the area who they take lessons from. And so they are really enjoying that. Another thing we do for music study is we listen to Classics for Kids, which is a podcast in the car. And she does about, I would say, 5 to 10 minute podcast episodes about a composer. And generally the series will continue for 3 or 4 episodes on that one composer or type of music. And then she'll go to another one. It's just the right length of time to hold their interest, and it's really interesting again for all of us. In terms of art, I have joined the Masterpiece Society online, but I have not done it yet. So initially, during the beginning of this year, the kids were enrolled in an art class, a local art class, but I decided to pull them out of it when I decided to calm down and not drive everywhere all the time. So now that we have pulled my eldest out of school, we will have more time to have a dedicated morning for art, and I hope to get into that with Masterpiece Art Society. In terms of PE and physical stuff, my son has always done Taekwondo. We stopped Taekwondo last fall. He's a black belt in Taekwondo. And we might do parkour, because I found out recently that there is a gymnasium here that does kids parkour lessons, and all my kids love to jump over things in an incredibly risky fashion, and I would love it for them to learn how to fall properly and jump over things properly, since nothing I say makes them stop. So that is our interest in parkour, and hopefully we will take that up We have a really big backyard that backs up to 20 acres of woods. So the kids do a lot of running around and jumping over logs and trees and stuff. So that's what I call PE. In terms of PE though, we also have the Gym 1 system, which I'll link down below. It's an awesome like indoor hanging gym that you can hang from the door frame in your house. And so we have it hanging, unfortunately, in the only door frame that it can work in our house, which is the laundry room. So the laundry room is always open, which is embarrassing if the laundry room isn't like put away, but what can you do? It has a swing, it has a hanging rope ladder, and it has like those little hangy things where you have 2 handles and you can do flips and stuff. Like my kids are all like little Russian gymnasts. I don't understand given my athletic lack of ability, but they are all amazing and they love it. It's an awesome thing to buy for your house if you have a doorway that works and allows the kid to swing back and forth without hitting walls or anything. Yeah, that is our homeschool update, I suppose. I mean, we've been having a lot of fun in spite of all the driving that we've been doing. And if you are feeling overwhelmed with homeschool, like you aren't getting through your checklist, like you're far behind, you're supposed to be at week 22 or 23 or whatever, and you're actually at week 15 or 16 in terms of your progress, I really suggest that you maybe look into reverse planning, which is what I do. I just write down at the end of the day what we've done. And it really feels good because you do so much almost every single day, you know? There are so many ways to make yourself feel bad on this homeschooling journey about what you're not doing, about how much somebody else is doing, about how you wish you were, you know, a more Charlotte Mason-y mom or a more Waldorf mom or a more traditional mom or whatever. There's so many ways to think, oh, I should have done it this way. Now they're here and we can't catch up and blah, blah, blah. But if you really just start looking at it the other way and write down what you do and what you have done and how much fun you have had, it will change your perspective on homeschooling and your kids. And that whole word progress will take on a different meaning. In the middle of now our 3rd year, I finally feel like I've really become comfortable with this notion of just doing whatever we want to do. And I know that sounds silly because that's an awesome, probably the biggest benefit of homeschooling. And I feel like so many of us resist that like awesome for so long. We're like, no, but we should do it this way. And I know this great mom who does it this way and her kids are amazing, blah, blah, blah. Like we leave the hemmed in limits of like public school or private school for this amazing freedom of homeschool. And then we immediately look for a new pen to go into. We're like, I am this type of mom or this type of homeschooler. And all I can say to you is that the more you can let go of any kind of fence, the better. You know, follow your kids, but follow yourself too, and fall into the fun things. You know, if things are really feeling like they don't jive with you, if they don't fit with you, let it go and find something else. Because honestly, as homeschoolers today, we have so many options. There are so many choices. There's so many things out there. There are no rules to this thing. There is no one philosophy that's the best. If you never knit anything with your kids will probably be fine. If you never do like the classical model, if you just hop from like the Wild West to ancient Egypt to back to the French Revolution, I think it'll be fine. There's no rules to this thing. So do what works for your family. If you want to spend a year and your kids just study frogs, my goodness, they're going to know so much more about frogs than anybody else. And that's fine. And if they don't study like anything about frogs ever and they know nothing about frogs, they'll be just like me. So it's going to be fine. Like, I think that in this effort to create this magical homeschool experience, sometimes we can really be hard on ourselves. So have compassion for yourself, your kids, the dumb decisions you've made in the fall, like mine with driving every which way, every place, as if commute time doesn't take away from our day. Just forgive yourself, move on, have a good time, relax and breathe into it. I, for one, am super excited about Julie Bogart's new book, The Brave Learner. I pre-ordered it last year, so it did not disqualify me from like, you know, my no-buy year. But it's coming in a couple days, I think like tomorrow or the next day, and I'm super excited. So if you haven't like heard about it, definitely check out on Amazon, The Brave Learner. I think you can still pre-order it, right? Because it's not the 5th yet. I don't know. But it is making me happy because I haven't ordered or bought any books this year because I'm doing my no-buy year. And I really need a new book. So I'm super excited for the Brave Learner to show up on my doorstep. That is my update, you guys. I should probably stop here before I start like just talking about nothing for even longer than I have. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you guys have any tips on how to make my incredibly strong third grade reader actually start reading chapter books on his own, I would so appreciate it. If you have any experience with Abeka arithmetic, I would love to know your opinions on it because I'm truly curious about incorporating it in for next year for my daughter. Yeah, I would love to hear how your years are going as well. It's always really fun for me to like learn from you guys as well as share. Comment down below so we can all like grow together. I really appreciate your time and I wish you the very best day.